Welcome back. My name is Dr. Carl Baird, and today I'll be discussing and demonstrating what I believe to be the most important exercise for lower back pain that often gets left out of traditional physical therapy plans. So before we get started, I just want to remind you that this is not a lower back pain relief exercise. Those are a different set of exercises. This is going to be a lower back health exercise designed to keep you from re-aggravating your lower back pain. So a typical pattern for adults aged 40 to 70 when they have uncomplicated lower back pain is that the back pain comes up, they rest or they get it treated and it starts to feel better. But then the minute they go back to being active or doing the things that they like to do, that back pain comes back because we re-aggravate that back pain, it comes back, and then we start the cycle all over again. So this exercise is designed to keep you from re-aggravating your lower back pain so that you can keep active and maintain your lifestyle as you get older. So let's go ahead and start with the demonstration. So let's go ahead and get right into it. The most important exercise for adults with lower back pain is the hip hinge. So let me go ahead and demonstrate this exercise, and then we'll talk a little bit about why it's so important to help limit impact that goes through your spine. So to perform the exercise, you start with your feet hip width apart, and then you simply send your hips back and come back up. So for such a seemingly simple exercise, let me give you a few reasons of why it's so important for the health of your spine and lower back pain. So first is it teaches you how to maintain a neutral spine as you bend forward. So a common cause of lower back pain in adults as they get older is just repetitive spinal flexion. Bending forward like that creates impact at the spine, which over time causes pain. So the hip hinge is going to teach you how to maintain a neutral spine so that the impact of your daily routine doesn't go through your spine. And that leads to point number 2. So where does the impact go? Well, it teaches us how to put the impact of our daily routine into our hips. So again, as humans, we evolved to be these bipedal creatures. Our hips are meant to be our weight-bearing joints, not our knees and not our lower back. And what the hip hinge does is it makes sure that the impact of our daily life goes into our hips and our hamstrings and our glutes, which that feeds into the next point, is that most adults with lower back pain will have weakness in their glutes and their hamstrings, and the hip hinge and the variations that you can build off of the hip hinge is a great way to build strength in your glutes and hamstrings, which helps set the foundation for your spinal alignment, which will limit impact that goes through your joints. And it's as simple as picking up a weight and sending those hips back, stopping when you feel tension in the hamstrings, and back up. And that's a great exercise to, again, maintain your neutral spine, keep the weight and impact of your daily routine in your hips, and strengthen your glutes and hamstrings. So now that you know what the exercise is, let me show you how to perform this movement, because for such a simple thing, there's a lot of small things that you want to pay attention to avoid aggravating your lower back pain when you do this movement. So, like I said before, you're going to start with your feet about hip width apart, and first thing you want to pay attention to is that you initiate the movement by sending your hips back. And so what we don't want to see is this bending forward at the trunk, which when you're learning this movement is a tendency a lot of people have. It's still a hip hinge, but now my center of gravity is so far forward, if I add any sort of weight, it's going to put a lot of stress on my lower back. So really make sure that you initiate by sending the hips back. Second, you need to make sure that you maintain a strong neutral spine, just meaning there should not be any spinal movement when you perform this. So as I send my hips back, my spine should not move. I shouldn't be rounding forward and I shouldn't be overextending. I should maintain that nice neutral position as I come back up. And another thing to pay attention to is when you initiate that movement is that your pelvis doesn't round forward. This is a common, very subtle mistake that people make, is that as they send their hips back, their pelvis rocks forward, their rib cage flares out. That's going to create tension in the lower back as you come down. And the last thing to pay attention to is to not go too low. So as you're performing this movement, I want to stop right when I feel tension in my hamstrings. Now I could go lower, But you can see that's when I start to round my lower spine. And if I do that too frequently or too often, that's when the lower back pain starts to creep up. So I really want to make sure that I stop when I feel that tension in the hamstrings and come back up. So that's all I got for you in terms of how to perform the hip hinge. Give it a try. Let me know how it goes. Remember, in order to solve lower back pain as you get older, it's imperative that we learn to limit the impact that goes through our spine. Otherwise, we're going to get stuck in this cycle where we have back pain, we rest it, we treat it, it feels good for a little bit, but the minute we try to get active again, the back pain comes back. And one of the best ways to limit impact that goes through your spine, not only in your daily life, but a lot of your activities that you like to do, including strength training, is learning how to hip hinge. So give this exercise a try. I'll put a link down to a lot more variations of how you can make this exercise more challenging to build strength in your hamstring and glutes. And that's it. That's all I got for you today. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below.